Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mcdpppp. Permit me within the next 10 minutes to share with you off the cuff how we can unlock $100 billion agro wealth in the north of Nigeria, utilizing just 2 million hectares of land created within 2,500 clusters of agro-industrial parks in the north of Nigeria. You know, I was just reading a report of the biggest agro exporters in the whole world. US is the first with $140 billion agro export, followed by Netherlands, about $110 billion. And interestingly, Netherlands landmass 41,000 square kilometers, arable landmass of about 1.92 million hectares, population of just 20 million people, and they were able to unlock such wealth. And if you look at the areas that they played on, vegetables, legumes, dairy, that is all, nothing more, nothing less. And I was just thinking through it creatively. You know, I've written proposals to, spoken at the Governors Forum of the Northern States of Nigeria, and I've shared with them creative ideas of how they can unlock $100 billion annual wealth within the 19 Northern States, while creating massive security within those areas in such a way that they can annihilate ISWAP, annihilate Boko Haram, annihilate the bandits, annihilate the militias, and create over 6 million jobs within 2 million hectares of land, fully irrigated, fully mulched, fully gated, fully fenced with processing factories. Let's go straight. The north is the only place in the whole wide world where you can actually grow the date and it will fruit twice in a year. The date is actually the honey that the Bible refers to in the scriptures. The dairy is the milk from the animal husbandry. You know, it shocks me that in the 21st century, criminals and terrorists are hiding under nomadic animal husbandry to be creating havoc all over Nigeria, when we can actually replicate similar things that I've done in other climes with slight modification to create wealth in Nigeria. In Netherlands, they have 18,360 dairy clusters, where you have agro-pastoral arrangement, the pastoralists mixing with the animal husbandry guys, the farmers mixing with the animal husbandry guys, and they have 14,000 jobs, for 7,000 jobs created there, and they return almost about $8 billion annually from that sector. We can replicate something. How do we do it? To provide a cluster of industrial cluster where you can plant enough maize, and other legumes to provide silage and enough foliage, enough food for the cows, that within those clusters, and then do date palm plantation and all those stuff. Create a cluster where you can also biodigest animal waste that will come from those clusters, and then use it to generate power and produce liquid fertilizers from them that will provide nutrients for the farm in such a way that we will create $100 billion revenue annually into the next 70 years. How do we do it? 1,700 hectares of land broken into 600 hectares in clusters of 2,500 clusters. Each cluster is 100 hectares. And what do you do in those clusters? Each cluster will house 5,500 cows. 5,000 cows, the milking cows, and the cows that are used to, the breeding and milking cows, and 500 bulls. 500 hectares of maize farm and silage farm and foliage farm in such a way we plant. In the US, the average harvest of corn per hectare is about 10 tons. We can replicate the same thing, get the right high yielding organic seedlings. Even if we are doing 4 tons or 5 tons per hectare, we'll be able to produce within those clusters. It will take us to do a cluster, and in those clusters we will do date palm plantations. If we have 1.5 million hectares of land fully cultivated in clusters of 600 hectares, we'll have 2,500 clusters. It will do the date palm plantation within those clusters will cost us about $1.5 billion. The date palm plantation within the first 4 years, because by the third year it will start fruiting the hybrid. By the fourth year we'll start harvesting. From the fifth to the sixth year, even to the next 70 years, from those clusters alone, we'll be creating about $24 billion revenue. The numbers have been crossed. We have developed strategic work plan on how these things can be done. To cultivate maize farms maize, high yielding corns within those clusters that will enable us to provide corn that can be eaten and also that can be used to provide animal feed. And then of course we will shred the corn silage, the corn these things to provide feed for the cows, enough feed for the cows that will be housed within that acreage. Remember that a big cow can actually eat up to 80% of animal food of its weight in a month. We've done the numbers. That one alone will take about $354 million to be executed. And now to set up clusters of 5,500 cows within each of those 2,500 clusters will cost us about $15 billion. AFDB will fund it when we have this. And that, of course, it will house about 13.75 million cows. Hybrid cows. We will crossbreed local cows with the Holstein and all those Friesian species that can do about 20-40 liters of milk every day. Within those clusters, we'll be able to do at least. If we set this, of course, it's not going to be a dash. It's going to be a marathon. We can stagger it over a period of 2, 3, 4, 5 years. If we're able to set up clusters, fully irrigated clusters, where the pastoralists, the animal husbandry they will quarter their cows. The cows and poo will be digested to provide liquid organic fertilizer and even generate power and even produce a lot of methane gas that we can sell within each cluster. From dairy palm plantation alone, from the date palm plantation alone, we get about $24 billion. From processing plant, we get about $24 billion annually. From the maize farm and the legumes and the silage, we raise almost about $2.43 billion annually. From the milking, from the dairy centers that will be set up across the 2,500 clusters, we will produce almost about $60 billion annually. We will produce almost about 91 billion liters of milk and the 6 million tons of cheese. These things are not skyrocket science. From the date plantation, $24 billion after the 50 years into the next 70 years. From the dairy clusters of about 13.75 million cows, we will have almost about 60 billion across all the dairy value chain, beef and all those stuff. From the maize farm and the silage, from the legumes, we'll have between 2.4 to $8 billion. If you run the number, it's about 100. We will get about 6 million jobs there. In every cluster, we'll have about 200 to 300 motorized agro rangers. Multiply 200, 300 by 2,500. We'll have enough food soldiers to crush ISWAP, to crush Boko Haram, to crush bandits, to crush militia, to crush the kidnappers, and make the North a safe haven. Netherlands does $110 billion. Netherlands does $110 billion. From what I've read here now, we will do the same $120 billion on just 2 million hectares of land, broken down into 2,500 clusters of 600 to 700 hectares. Fully irrigated, biofuel power turbines, solar power turbines, wind power turbines, provide light. It will be like a city. Every cluster will be like a city. We won't have animal nomadic herdsmen everywhere. They will be housed in those dairy centers, just like we have in Netherlands. It's no skyrockets. Just see where within 10 minutes. I don't even know if it was up 10 minutes. And this thing, we've developed massive workbook on this. If the governors of the North are serious, you don't need to wait for the presidency. We will help them to put the design, the structure, the funding, and the execution arrangement under the Mcdpppp framework: missions, community, diaspora, private, public, partnership, participation arrangement. The total cost of the project is $1.52 billion for the date cluster development, $354 million for the maize and the foliage centers, and $15.12 billion for the dairy centers that will have massive wealth creation across the value chain. What will it take? Nothing. It's just for them to think straight. But do you know why they will not want to create $100 billion in the North and create jobs, 6 million jobs, create security? It's because they are depending on the depleting and dying fossil fuel from the Niger Delta. Let me tell you, the North is actually the paradise of Nigeria. The North, look at what Egypt is doing. Egypt is 95% desert. Look at what Saudi Arabia is doing. Saudi Arabia non-oil export in 2023 was 450. Non-oil revenue was $453 billion. And Saudi Arabia does not even have a quarter of the arable land that we have in the north. Check Netherlands. Check. And you can see clearly. We just need to restructure Nigeria. That is the simple. If once we restructure the constitutional, physical framework of Nigeria back to what we have in 1960 to 1966, and we provide this community agro-based security arrangement, fully armed and fully equipped and fully trained to wipe away. Some of us will locate to the north to go and help enjoy massive wealth there. Thank you and God bless you.